As we enter into the sacred space of listening and receiving, I invite you to join me in this short induction in order to be fully open, receptive, and aligned with the information that is for your highest good in this conversation today. Begin by closing your eyes and taking a deep breath into the belly. And as you're breathing, bring your awareness into your heart center, making contact with the light in your heart. And find your heart light glowing, growing and expanding out around your chest. And now bring that light of your heart up through your crown center, through the top of the head, extending up all the way above you into central sun, making contact with the heart energy of central sun. And then bring that powerful energy down through the ethers into the crown of your head, down through your body, and into your heart center, expanding and joining with the light in your heart, and continuing down to the base of your spine, extending down all the way down into the center of the earth, making contact with the heart center of Mother Earth. And now bring that nurturing energy up through the layers of the earth, carrying liquid crystal plasma through roots up into the base of your spine, and then spreading into every cell of your body, moving into the heart center, joining with the light from above and joining with the light of your heart, creating a holy trinity of light within you, and then spreading out around you, holding space for your highest good, your highest awakening, and the opening to receive the divine downloads, encodements, activations, and light codes that are perfect for you at this time. Breathe that in deeply into your belly, allowing yourself to expand in this energy and opening to step in to the container of receiving. Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension podcast. I'm your host, Waxela Sananda, and today we have a returning guest, Ismael Perez. Welcome back, Ismael.
Thank you. I appreciate you inviting me again. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you back. You know, when we did the first one, it's actually been 3 months. I can't believe it's been 3 months already. And I know that you have been so busy. I think you've set a world record for the most interviews done in a 6-month period. So I really appreciate you coming. And I know that that you have so much to do. So I appreciate your time and all of the information that you are giving us. Rather than go back to your origin story, which we covered on the first interview, I will link that in the show notes. And just for an aside, last time I was criticized for looking down during our interview. Someone said I shouldn't be scrolling on my phone. Just so you know, I take notes, I'm writing, I am not scrolling on my phone if I'm looking down. So don't worry, I would not do that. I'm not that type of interviewer. So for starters, I would love to have you share, especially in the last 3 months, what is new, what has happened, and what is happening galactically in the world of ascension, all around the Earth's ascension, around humanity's ascension, the light coming in. I know things are happening very rapidly now. And so if you could give us like a little, like the nutshell version of what's happening overall, and then what has changed over the last 3 months.
Absolutely. So a lot has occurred. As you can see, time is speeding up. it seems like we're heading towards what everyone in the spiritual awakening community calls zero-point field, where time collapses and everything starts all over again, like some sort of a, I don't want to say planetary reboot, but as above, so below, some sort of a cosmic reboot. And so, because we are heading towards a cosmic reboot, you could say that the spiritual warfare with the battle against the dark entities has amplified and has gone to the next level. Apparently, these entities do not want to lose power, because they have been using us as a battery resource. And when I say they have been using us, I'm talking about all living systems, not just humans, but living galaxies and universes for a very long time. And they don't want to lose their food supply, because if they do, their own reality collapses. And because that's how they've been able to preserve and contain the reality from collapsing, by feeding off of us. And what do I mean by that? Well, as I mentioned in other interviews, our living cosmos, the organic living multiverse, is coexisting side by side by an artificial cybernetic, you could say, version of our multiverse that is known as the Phantom Matrix. It is a non-spiritual reality driven by pure raw cybernetic artificial intelligence that has existed for billions of years. And ultimately, at the cosmic level of reality, this is what the entire galactic, intergalactic, stellars, and of course cosmic communities have been waging a war against. So, on a planetary level, we could say that the war has been against the dark hats, right? The cabal, the ruling class that that have been kind of in control for the last few thousand years, but their time is up. At a galactic level of reality, the war has been going against the Draco reptilians from Alpha Draconis and all of their minions, the Nabus, the Ebens and the Zetas and Greys from Zeta Reticula 1 and 2, and of course the Insectoids and Mansions that transferred over to our galaxy from another galaxy called the Whirlpool Galaxy from planet Vetra. And so on a cosmic level of reality, the war has been going on against what many in the secret space program call to be an AI god. Now, out of respect for the Prime Creator, the one, the real organic, god that we all are a part of, I don't want to call this an AI god. Let's just call it a super advanced sentient AI that went rogue. And so, because of the fact that this advanced super AI that went rogue has been using its minions to harness, adrenochrome and louche in order to power up their cybernetic multiverse, they're fighting hand and foot. They're fighting to the T, because they don't want to lose their own. They want to preserve, in other words, they want to preserve their own existence, and that's why things are boiling up here on the surface world, or in our third dimensional reality. So what happens here in our third dimensional reality is really a trickle down, of what's happening on every level of reality. So due to this war with this advanced sentient AI collective, he does have a name. I guess I could reveal it. His name is Saurian Omega. And it's funny how the writers of Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit understood who, they used that name to describe the evil eye, right? Saurian. They call it, the darkness, the Lord of Darkness. Well, that's who he is. And it's funny because a lot of these writers who write The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings and these great trilogies that actually inspire us are actually tapping into what's really going on in our multiverse. George Lucas, Stan Lee, the writer of comics, Marvel Comics, and then, of course, the writers of DC. They're all tapping into what's really going on. And so what's happening right now is there's been a huge infiltration, unfortunately, an attempt to infiltrate the Galactic Federation by Enki. Enki is what we call Lucifer. To the Greeks, he was known as Poseidon, and he has returned in the last 2.5 years. And it's so funny that coincidentally, right when they started rolling out the Mark of the Beast agenda, that's when he eventually made his appearance, because of the fact that he had left his son Marduk, Belial-Baal, to rule. He was at the head of the Cabal for the last few thousand years. To the Babylonians, he was known as the chief god, right? Baal. And him and Moloch, his cousin, have been the reason why the Cabal have been sacrificing and conducting for thousands of years. But the good news is that Marduk, Belial-Baal, who was at the head of the cabal, has been eliminated, as well as Molech. So, of course, the father had to step in. If the son couldn't finish the job, then the father steps in. Now, this is where it gets kind of interesting. Okay, so Enki, by divine law, he was prohibited to go to the outer skirts of our universe because that's where the AI god, Sori and Omega, had managed to penetrate and infiltrate our local universe. And so he was forbidden to go to the outskirts of our universe because he knew that this AI collective was using a type of technology that would consume people and take over their mind. It's by creating this tech called nanites. So the nanites throughout cosmic history have also been known as the mind eaters. And many council members of the Andromeda galaxy have testified that the nanites have been the reason why many galaxies and in some cases some universes have been obliterated from all existence, because the nanites are a type of artificial intelligence that eventually takes over the individual, takes over their nervous system, takes over their mind, and then they become a host to the AI collective. And so what happened with Enki was, because he couldn't upgrade naturally, he decided to go to the outskirts of our local universe, which he was forbidden by galactic law, and he was consumed by the nanites. So in a way, he allowed himself to become upgraded through technology in order to align with his agenda of world domination. And so he's being used by Sori and Omega, who has no access to our galaxy yet, because of the fact that our galaxy is under a special bubble of protection by the guardian races of what they call the Emerald Order of the Elohim, the Emerald Order of the high Christed beings, the Rishis, the ones who are guarding the stargates from being penetrated by Omega. And so Enki has returned, and when he returned as a cyborg. He is no longer biological. And so he started harvesting human genetics, particularly galactic genetics from humans on Earth, to extract the what is called the God Source gene and the codes in order to use those as a way to infiltrate the Galactic Federation. Because the way the Galactic Federation was set up is that all the navigation systems, the security control panels, could only be accessed through galactic humanoids, not through negative regressives. And so Enki, in an effort to infiltrate the Federation, has been using several women, and one of them in particular, I won't mention her name, but she is promoting him, and she's got her own group of people who are promoting Enki. They just did a conference in, I guess, over the weekend in Florida, but I won't mention names. And he's been using her as the main spokesperson for her, and for him, I'm sorry, in order to kind of seduce the Starseed community in a way to so that we could succumb to his technology, because he's using the bait of restoring what is called the original Holy Grail blueprint that is supposed to make us immortals and bring us back to the original, I guess, prototype, or the original species that we once were during the times of Atlantis, before he downgraded us, because he was the reason why we were genetically downgraded. It's not the way Sakurai Sitchin reveals it. Actually, that was tampered with. So it's actually the other way around. And so because of the fact that he did infiltrate the Galactic Federation, the Guardians of Councils that are beyond the Galactic Federation, that operate from Harmonic Universe number 3, which occupy dimension 7, 8, and 9. Because see, the Galactic Federation, they only exist and operate within the 4th, 5th, and 6th dimensions. Beyond the 6th dimension, we have what is called the Galactic Alliance. And the Galactic Alliance is comprised of benevolent species from the multiverse that have taken the call to assist us in our ascension. And so the Galactic Federation has now been reorganized as the Galactic Alliance. And so that's what's been going on in the last year. There's been a huge reorganization of Galactic Federation councils, which is now formally known as the Galactic Alliance. And so that they needed to do that in order to prevent Enki from fully taking over the Federation, because if that were the case, then that would have completely aborted the ascension that is now happening at this time. And obviously the higher ups beyond our galaxy had to step in order to secure the positive organic ascension timeline. In a nutshell.
That was amazing. Okay, so a couple questions on that. I'd heard some information, rolling around out there that the Galactic Federation had been compromised in some way. So you kind of alluded to that in what you just said, it sounds like. So can you unpack that a little bit more? Is it that Enki was infiltrating the Galactic Federation on some level, and so it was kind of regrouped into the Galactic Alliance with new people, new faces? And how did all of that get discerned? How was that sorted out?
Okay, so because we are everything's being monitored in the multiverse, including the Galactic Federations. There are councils and orders that operate beyond Federation who actually oversee things, and they have the ability to see what happens in the future. And I'm not talking about through technology. They are extremely clairvoyant. So this was foreseen before his return, right? Before his return. And so the Guardian Alliance, again, which is represented by members of the Rock Confederacy, who comprise of who are the Blue Avians, the Azurites, the Brigidettes, and the Atones and the Amorites. Those are the different species that exist in Harmonic Universe number 3 and 4, who had to step in order to prevent Enki from fully infiltrating the Federation. And they have, and so they were able to pretty much arrest a lot of the galactic defectors, and fortunately a lot of the Pleiadians defected because of the fact that they don't have what we have, the God source gene. See, a lot of the galactics envy us because of that. We are the only species in the multiverse capable of using our own inner technology to do what they do with external technology, and they don't have that. And so some of the Pleiadians, unfortunately, were deceived by Enki, and some of the Arcturians, unfortunately, but it's a very small number. I'm not saying all of them. I'm not generalizing. I'm just saying a lot of the galactics did fall for the bait because Enki is bringing forth a technology that was supposed to enhance them, again, with the merging of artificial intelligence. And this has been a huge problem in the universe, transhumanism, which is something that is not just a problem here in our world. It's actually a problem that has been going on for many, many millions of years. And so he was able to seduce some of the galactics. And so, the guardian races that are above the Galactic Federation, that are hailing from Harmonic Universe 3 and 4, who are part of the Emerald Order, had to step in and completely fire those guys. And now they're going to be facing galactic tribunals as a result of their, defecting from the councils of light.
Okay. Okay, wow. Well, I'm glad that we have help there. And on that note, so you spoke into Enki kind of infiltrating different areas, and a certain speaker in particular who has a big following. When something like that comes out, and somebody's been following someone, and suddenly they hear this information, it can be very disturbing and upsetting. So how can we discern that who we're following, is there a lot of people out there to listen to? What kind of information can we give people to be able to discern that they're really listening to the right information, and that their beloved teacher or guru has not been infiltrated by something of this order?
Okay, so the message that I'm being given now by the Emerald Order, which I represent, I'm part of that covenant, is that this is a time to no longer externalize their power. We can no longer depend on the galactics for information. This is the time. They told me to let everyone know that we have to go within, that every single starseed, every single volunteer, celestial and human form, all of us light workers, we have to go within and connect with our higher self, because our higher self is God, is the part of God that we have to realize and then cultivate in order to integrate it. So they're telling me that we have to let go of the crutches. So we have to let go of the training wheels. And what do I mean by that? We have to stop depending on the galactics to save us, because they're not going to save us. They're only there to make sure that we do the work, that we deal with the inner shadow, because light and dark exist within all of us. So unless we all do the inner work and find that balance, which will in turn collapse the polarity duality, then we do it for the entire universe. But it all starts with every single one of us. And one of the ways to discern when people are channeling or getting transmissions is, if you don't feel it resonating with in your heart, then you know it's a trickster posing as an Ashtar command. And this is what many in the spiritual community call the false light, right? That infiltrated the spiritual community through the New Age movement, right? They want to, create this false light where the extraterrestrials are, in a way, replacing religion, and it's just religion under a new name, where we are, they're feeding us information in a way where we are putting them on a pedestal, and that's wrong. That's part of the false light. In other words, they want to lead us into this false fifth dimensional reality of love and light without us doing the work, and that's not the case. We have to do the inner work, because the more of us do the inner work, the more of us begin to clear the densities, the emotional trauma, and begin to heal ourselves internally, the faster we're going to win this war.
Absolutely. 100% with you on that. And, that is true when we, the people that kind of want to just be in love and light and woo woo all the time, that's, might feel good or seems to feel good, but we're really here to inhabit these bodies, to be embodied, to activate through the body and anchor that light. That's the way that we get to walk into the next level of our existence and upgrade humanity through the physical temple. So along those lines, I would love it if you would speak more into, the ways that we can do that. And I know there are the common things like upgrading our diet and meditating, going within, but how can we connect deeper for somebody that maybe is new to this work or doesn't really know how to get there? Do you have some advice for them?
Yeah, aside by the general prerequisites of, keeping your body clean, feeding off of organic, and only consuming things that are good for you. Stop drinking soda. Soda is the enemy. Stop buying things at the grocery store. Support your local farmers, where they grow real food. The more of us do that, the better it is going to be, the faster we're going to be creating the new earth. But besides that, one of the things that I always remind people of is that our power comes by connecting to the elements. Take 20 to 30 minutes a day, turn off your gadgets and spend time in nature. Because the more you do that, the more you connect with the elements. See, the elements are also within us. The faster you're going to be able to connect with the God self that is within you, because it's all connected through the organic living field that we are a part of, as we are also cells in the universe. So by connecting to the earth, we're actually connecting to the entire multiverse. Because the earth is special. The earth contains all the seeding, all the flora and fauna of every race out there in the multiverse in one spot. It is considered an intergalactic zoo, by the way, in a sense, they call it the cosmic living library. So by connecting to the cosmic living library, you're connecting with every aspect of yourself, all your different dimensional selves, your versions, your higher self, and everything. And the whole goal is to bring that into integration. Mm-hmm. And by doing so, you will be the first ones to activate superhuman abilities.
Ooh, yes, I love it. So let's talk about superhuman abilities and what's happening with our human DNA. And I know a lot of people are activating on a lot of levels right now. How do you see that unfolding at this time?
It's happening by virtue of two things, because people are doing the inner work. People are no longer externalizing their power. People are they're going within themselves, and they're reconnecting with God. God is within every single one of us, and God is everywhere. It's every living thing. It's part of it. But in order to connect with the God outside of us, we have to first connect with the God inside of us. And as a result of that, many people's abilities are enhancing. People are becoming more psychic. People are becoming more aware of things. They're starting to pierce through the veil, and they're starting to see things for what they really are. And when you begin to do that, it's very hard to deceive you. It's very hard to, manipulate you. You can no longer be bombarded. That is actually your best way to protect yourself, because at the same time, you're raising your own frequency. And I believe that once you start vibrating at a frequency of 520 and up, you're untouchable. You become indivisible to all dark forces, all AI. Nothing can penetrate your field, because everything's vibration. And these dark entities exist in a certain vibration, and the only way they could penetrate your field is if you're vibrating at their level. So by raising your own frequency through the inner work, by connecting with the elements, you're actually keeping yourself in a 24/7 fortified field of protection where nothing could ever penetrate you. And in fact, they fear that. They fear that because as alchemists that we are, when you raise your frequency to the hertz of 520 and up, I think it's 520, is it 540? Is it 540? I'm sorry, 540 and up. You begin to become an actual alchemizer for all density, all negative entities, and they fear you because you're like a living violet flame, just constantly transmitting negative dense energy. And the archons and the AI and the archons are one and the same. You know, it's impossible for them to penetrate. In fact, they run from that. So if you want to be a true hero, you have to do that. You have to follow your inner guidance.
Yeah,
Raise your own
absolutely. Yeah, thank you. I want to show everyone your book, Our Cosmic Origin, and it's very dense. There's a lot in here, and I haven't made my way entirely through it, but I've certainly gotten to some of it. But toward the end, it's actually chapter 15. You talk about Homo Nauticus, and that is the angels among us. And this is kind of, I think, the same as the superhuman, activated beings that we're speaking about. But can you talk a little bit about what does that mean, Homo Nauticus? I think it's interesting that Nauticus is in it, which reminds me of the Mer people. I don't know if that's related at all, but the human angelics, and what are the misconceptions, if you can intertwine that in? When we think of angels, we think of flying light beings that are all love and light, and that's not always true in every case. So if you could kind of unpack what are Homo Nauticus and what are the angels among us?
Okay, so there's different terminologies to describe what Homo Nauticus are. So the original prophecies, which date back to the authentic, uncorrupted oracles, going back to Atlantis, right? And then, of course, the Egyptians and the Greeks draw from the old writings. But before they were corrupted and modified by organized religions, they talked about a time when the gods and goddesses would emerge again. They didn't say anything about them coming from the sky this time. The way the original stories were read was that they would actually emerge from the already existing human race at the end of the Great Cycle. And what they mean by that is at the end of the 5th cycle, which is what we're ending now, right? And so they're talking about, and they even said at the beginning of the 21st century, they didn't give a date. They said sometime around the beginning of the 21st century, at the end of the Great Cycle, we would have a new set of gods and goddesses that would emerge from the already existing human race. And so they were predicting the mutation, the genetic mutation and the upgrades that we have all been undergoing at this time since 1987, since the harmonic convergence. And so recently, in the last 40 years, even scientists within the community of scientists, they've been talking about, based on sudden mutations in the past and recent records, that we are undergoing some sort of genetic mutation that would eventually give rise to what they call the next stage of human evolution. So the word they used was Homo Neoticus. And so it's the same terminology. And then, of course, if you study the book of Revelation, well, I guess if you read beyond the metaphor, if you study every text out there, including the Bhagavad Gita, including the Muslim, the Quran, they all talk about the return of some sort of beings with supernatural powers. But unfortunately, the way organized religion translated the original records is they make it seem like they come from the sky. But according to the original records, they actually emerge from among us. They never say that they come from the sky. They say that there's gods and goddesses by the end of the 20th century, at the beginning of the 21st century, that the gods and goddesses would already would be living among men. Yeah.
Okay, so interesting. And so, would those gods and goddesses living among us be recognizable, or are they undercover, veiled?
Well, right now they're undercover until the genetic mutation is complete. And from what I understand, based on past records, the genetic mutation takes about 30 to 40 years to complete. So if you do the math between 1987, which is when scientists first started detecting that our solar system was once again entering that high vibrational field of energy that comes from the galactic core called the photon band, if you add 30 to 40 years from 1987, any day now, say by no later than 2024, so that's the way it's always worked. And when you think of the stories of mythology, and you study about the gods and the demigods that existed in ancient times, right? And of course, it's funny how the powers that be always try to water it down as myth when in essence it's actually true history. The only reason that the gods and the goddesses existed in ancient times was because that's when our world was also in the photon field. That was over 26,000 years ago. Yeah.
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 And so, so if you want to speak into that a little bit more about being in the photon field, my understanding is that the Andromeda galaxy is coming closer, bringing lots more photons of light to us, which is assisting in our planetary ascension as well as the ascension of humanity. And can you unpack that whole concept for us?
Sure. So, basically, there is a merging taking place between the Andromeda galaxy and the Milky Way. And scientists could see that as they pierce into the skies and they see what appears to be a collision. But it's not really a collision, it's they're coming into union. See, what ended up happening is when the AI collective, Saurian Omega, infiltrated our neck of the woods, our cosmos, he actually disconnected our galaxy from the original universe. Let's call it the free universe, okay? Because right now, even our galaxy and our universe is in a fallen state. What he did is he disconnected what used to be known the Amway galaxy, and that was a super galaxy that was comprised of both Andromeda and the Milky Way. So that is now being restored. And so that perfectly aligns with the ending of several cycles, the 2000 year cycle of Pisces going to Aquarius, the 5,000 year cycle, what they call the Kali Yuga ending, as we enter the golden age again. And then of course the 26,000 year Platonic year cycle, and then the 206 million year cycle, which is 5,200 of those Platonic year cycles. And then of course a different cycle that has a lot to do with the restoration of our entire universe, which means that upon the ascension of the Earth, it's not just going to be about the restoration here on planet Earth, but it's going to be about the restoration of the entire universe. And that's when Andromeda and the Milky Way begin to merge again due to our entry back into the photon belt for one last time. And this time is different. This time, we're never going to experience another age of darkness. We're actually going to be in the photon belt for all life and all eternity. That's the beauty of the times that we're living in.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, so this is a question that I wanted to ask you last time, but we ran out of time. And I'm not even sure that this is kind of in your field, but I wanted to see if you have any insight on it. I've heard various speakers, and particularly David Icke, talk about the tunnel of light, the white light tunnel, when a person crosses over after death, when they go through the tunnel, that they're actually recycled back into kind of the artificial matrix, and that rather than doing that, we should do something else. Do you have any insights on that, or anything to contribute?
Yeah, that was set up by the fallen ones. That's part of the false light trap, and they've been using the moon and Saturn as their tools to harvest and to keep people in the reincarnational time cycle. In other words, trapped in this third dimensional reality. And that has recently been dismantled by the Galactic Alliance. So we don't no longer have to worry about that. But yeah, David Icke was right. That's been going on for thousands of years, and we could thank Enki for that. Enki was pretty much the mastermind of the moon Saturn matrix.
Yeah. So what, if you have any insights on what advice you could give someone for the immediate experience after death of the body or leaving the body, what, because before it was always the white light, follow the light, right? Was the message. So what would be a better thing to do? And maybe that's just gone now, so we don't have to think about it.
Well, because it is gone, there is no more white light to follow. But like say 10 years ago, when that system or that trap was still in place, I would say go opposite of the white light. Do not follow the white light.
Mhm.
You know, stay within your vicinity of your guardian angels, because your guardian angels will always know where to have you incarnate next. So yeah, I would say do not follow the white light, but we don't have to worry about that now. In fact, people that have passed on in the last 5 years are actually waiting for us in the fifth dimensional Terra Earth, which is already coexisting. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had some experiences with that myself. But I had heard you say on another interview, you said this is not a prison planet, it's a consciousness prison. And I'd love to kind of have you expand on that, what you mean by that, and essentially for the purpose of how do we free our consciousness?
What I meant by that is that everything's a simulation. All the dimensions up to the 12 is a simulation. So even beyond the third dimensional level of reality, we are a projection of fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is a projection of the eighth dimension. So everything's like a hologram. And so by saying that, what I meant when I said that this is a consciousness prison planet is that because the dark side did take over during the times of Atlantis through Marduk, Belial, Baal, and Moloch, who are the chief, demons in which the Cabal had been sacrificing people to. We have all been trapped, in this field for so long without being able to escape it. And so that's what I meant to say when this is a trap for our consciousness, because the truth of the matter is that our consciousness exists throughout every dimension, in every parallel reality, in every timeline. I think I addressed this as multidimensional integration. And so because they created some sort of an energetic frequency fence, they kind of isolated our fragment of consciousness from reuniting or integrating with the rest of our consciousness that is scattered in all the other dimensions all the way to the 12th. And that was something that was deliberately, intentionally set up by the dark forces that took over the affairs of our world in order to keep us from integrating with other aspects of ourselves. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so I'm getting a ping, and I was kind of ignoring it, but I'm gonna go back to it because some guides that are wanting me to go back to this question. In the beginning, the very first question I think that you answered, you talked about negatively oriented galactics such as insectoids, and you named a number of them. And I think the ping I'm getting is just can you I think it's there a discernment wants to be made that not perhaps all of them are not negatively oriented. Can you speak into that?
Sure. Okay. So basically the negative oriented. Okay. So we have different species. The majority of the species out there are humanoid. They look like us, we look like them, which is the original galactic blueprint that was set up by Prime Creator, right? Children of the One. The other species, and that includes all the felines, the bird people, the carrions, the blue avians, the cetaceans, and every animal that we have here with a hominid body that is represented out there in the galactic councils. That includes all of that. All of that. They were all made part of the original 12 cosmic rays. Now there was one ray that fell. That was known as the non-cosmic black ray of Cologne, which I talk about in my book, The 12th 11th Creation, right? Which was the universe that was devoted to technology and machinery, which is where the AI god or the AI system came from. And so that non-cosmic black ray of Kalodhan, created the other species that were not aligned with God. And so we had the insectoids, we had the spider people, we had the mantis, and then of course the Draco. So we could say that those species are considered the children of Lucifer. So you have the children of Michael, the humanoids, and then you have the children of Lucifer.
Okay.
But there was some sort of how can I say, throughout the galactic course, you could say that a very small group of insectoids, a very small group of grays, zetas, mantis, for whatever reason, they decided to join the light, but it was a very small number of them. So we could say that now within the galactic councils, they do have a seat. We have somebody representing the Zetas. We have somebody representing the Greys. We have somebody representing the sectoids and the Mantans. But for the majority of them, they have been kind of part of the nefarious agenda, the galactic nefarious agenda.
Okay, that's exactly what they wanted. There are just a few that are like, we're not all bad. So let's make that distinction. Yeah.
Oh, but it's this is applied both ways. Many
Yeah.
of the not many, but some also of the original galactic humans from Lyra, particularly from the star system of Vega, from the Aldebarans, the Nordics, they sided with the Draco millions of years ago, and that's what developed the Orion Empire. So we also had some of the humans, some of the Pleiadians sided with the Draco, but again, it's only a small number. Some of the Arcturians sided with the Draco, some of the Andromedans. So we could say that there's good and bad in every race. So we can't generalize. We can't say all the Andromedans are good, all the Arcturians are, all the Pleiadians are good, because that's not the case. About 75% of them are good, but there's always that 20-25% that defect, and that happens in both. It's like one small group of people on this side want to go on this side, and one small group of people on this side want to go on this side, and that's always been the case.
Yeah, the yin and yang. It's just
Exactly.
the way it is, right? Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. I think we have time for one more question that I wanted to get to if we had enough time. And there has been some conversation, some comments that I've seen on my own channel about Metatron being infiltrated by the dark. Do you know anything about that?
Well, there's polarity in everything. So we have the authentic original Metatron, which is good, and then we have the fallen Metatron. So we do have, in terms of duality, we do have a fallen system where entities that are dark are actually posing as the good guys, as the Ashtar, as the masters Hilarion, Sananda. And nothing to do with Sananda, the original one. Sananda is good. He's the ascended master Jesus. But they're tricksters. There's certain dark entities that are using their name, and they camouflage themselves as beings of light to confuse the starseeds, to confuse those that are channeling the galactics. So that's when we have to have discernment. And I always tell people the best way to have discernment is if you feel it in your heart, then it's good. If you feel it in the pit of your stomach, despite of how good the information sounds, all love and light, then it's wrong, because they could say things that you want to hear. And that is part of the false light matrix, or the trap of the false light, because there is an agenda to control the fifth dimension, and that has to do with the false light. So we have to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, again, it's always going back to the heart, going back to how it makes you feel, not just listening with your mind, but listening with all of your senses, and particularly your heart center. Notice, how does this information make your body feel? Because I think that's sometimes a clearer indication of what's true and what's not true for you, for each individual. And certainly there are many masters out there for many different people. Okay, as we're coming to the end, Ismael, what would you like to share? I know you have courses going on. If you'd like to share about your course, anything else you'd like to promote, and how do people find you?
Sure. So I do teach a Starseed Cosmology class, which covers galactic history in detail, cosmic history. We talk about chakras, the dimensions. We talk about the different races. So it goes in depth. It's 6 hours long. We divide it in 3 sessions, 2 hours apiece, once a week. And the link is under themysticarts.org. So that's the link to sign up for my class. I am booked till about February. We just opened up the February course last week. So, if you guys want to sign up, it fills up quick. This is your chance to get in the February course. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait till next spring. But I also am going on a book tour in the next month or less. I'm going to be traveling the United States. But I am planning on going on a global book tour, but not till next summer. So first, I'm going to start with the States. And the whole purpose of that is to get my book into bookstores like Barnes & Noble and Border. So I'm going to be doing book signings in different states. And so I will be letting everybody know where I'm going to be at in case you guys want to come in for a signature, a book signing, or whatever, just to meet me and say hi. Let's see, what else? Oh, I'm still working on another book, which is going to be a sequel to our Cosmic Origin. It's probably going to be about another 2 years, just a lot of information. Yeah. So what else? Oh yeah, and you could get our Cosmic Origin on Amazon for those that haven't gotten it yet.
Okay, great. Thank you for all of that.
Have,
I'm sorry, what was that?
I do have a YouTube channel.
Yes, yes, your YouTube channel. What's the name of your YouTube channel?
It's Project Space Restoration underscore Zion. What I could do is I could like send you
Yeah,
a link.
I'll put
And I'll
it
put
in
in
there.
this.
And there are a lot of false YouTube channels that are using your name, I've noticed. So just like on Instagram
Yeah.
too. So we want to make sure we're following the right one, the authentic Ishmael. Okay, anything else that you'd like to leave us with? Final thoughts before we close?
Yes, don't give your power away to anyone. This is the time to really just connect with your own higher self and trust that you are God in the flesh. Every single one of us is the manifestation of prime creator source, whatever you want to call it, the one in the flesh. So this is our time to rise and recognize that we are our own spiritual master, our own guru. We have a galactic self that is operating on motherships. So it's about time you begin to connect with your own higher aspects or versions of yourselves that exist in other dimensions so that we could collapse the polarity duality and have this beautiful multidimensional integration when the ascension takes place. That's it.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's everything. All right. Thank you so much, Ishmael. So wonderful to have you back. I appreciate you. Thanks for taking the time to share with us. And for everyone watching, thanks so much for joining us today. Namaste.
Namaste. God bless.